News 1 at 9.
What a moment in history, both here in Nevada and in Washington. The worst recession in decades is forcing some very tough choices, both here and in Congress. Earlier today, I sat down with former reporter and columnist Erin Neff to get her take on the budget battle. Neff has left journalism to head up progressive causes at her blog, ProgressNow, Nevada. Let's talk about the legislature. Obviously, it is, on day 4, technically up in Carson City. Do you think that this legislature is going to bite the bullet and really take the bold moves to redo the financing structure of the state? Or are we going to get, it's going to be 2003 all over again? We're going to get a fee here, a fee there. They'll boost this there. They won't boost that there. What's going to come out of this?
If you take them at their word, the Speaker of the Assembly is saying, let's really look at this. Let's do some wholesale changes. And I just have a cynical approach to this, having lived here and covered politics for as long as I have and seen so many legislative sessions. The best intentions always get bungled in that 120-day time frame where they are under the gun from day one and really don't get economic projections until May 1st and then only have a few weeks to really craft a budget, a revenue plan for the state. And so they're always in this model of short-term how to fill the gap or how to stick things in so we have a workable budget instead of taking the broader approach, which is how are we going to move forward in this state with a three-legged stool on which to rest our revenue. And they just never seem to get there. I'm hopeful that this is the year they do it. If you know, term limits are any indication, they shouldn't be afraid of the voters. They shouldn't be afraid to go out and really do something drastic.
There are 17 members of the legislature who are term limited. This is their last go-around up in Carson City. What do you think? How's that going to affect the dynamic? I mean, do you think that we're suddenly going to get 17 lawmakers casting the yoke of re-election off of their shoulders, going, I can finally be brave and vote be damned, I will do my conscience.
Oh, you're hopeful. Well, you have another dynamic as well. You have people who want to run for governor, want to run for other office, and so there's always another election.
Or as John Ralston said, want to get a job in the private sector.
Want to get a private sector job, or we don't even know at the end of this session whether term limits will be enacted, but whether this will go through. There could still be a legal challenge that tosses term limits. Very shaky ground on which that was passed here in Nevada. So we don't know if in fact this is the last. So I'm not as hopeful about people casting aside the fear of re-election and doing the right thing for the state.
Let's talk about the dynamics. We'll get to the Assembly in a moment. But, I mean, do you buy the premise that essentially for this session, the action's really going to be in the state Senate, given the fact you've got a new majority leader and you've got Bill Raggio, now the minority leader, and Stephen Horsford trying to develop his chops in terms of running the upper house. Is that where you're going to be watching really what's happening in Carson City?
Well, we already know the end result in the Assembly is sort of written on the wall. The Democrats have a veto-proof majority. We know whatever they want, they will get. The action is certainly in the Senate. We have to see how many people Stephen Horsford can pull in from the Republican side of the aisle to whatever plan.
Right.
He needs to. He needs Raggio's support to get that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Raggio is going to still be a huge player in this session, and things got off a little rocky between he and Stephen Horsford. We'll see if they can, you know.
And you're referring to there was a special session, I think, the last one or the one before, where Horsford brought up an amendment, and that did not actually sit very well with Bill Raggio. And
Raggio, a man of protocol and parliamentary procedure, and Horsford really trying to, at the time, this amendment would have created a commission to look at the adequacy of education funding. So really got off on the wrong foot there.
Well, you know, Jim Gibbons comes out with the Gibbons budget a few weeks ago. I mean, did you see that as a spending plan, or did you see that really as more of a political inoculation by a governor who's anticipating a Republican primary?
Oh, I just see it as an impeachable offense, I'll be honest. That budget is not a spending plan for the state I live in and raise a family in. That is a dereliction of duty, if you ask me. I don't know if it's something to stave off a Republican primary. He's going to get one regardless. And really, it shows you how narrowly focused Jim Gibbons is. His one sole political bone in his body is no new taxes, and he can't seem to see a policy beyond that, whether it is funding for education or health care or social services. There's no heart in any of those issues. There is a very strict no new tax line, and that's what he's stuck with.
And going back to Bill Raggio, I mean, this budget could not have sat very well with Bill Raggio, who's been a champion of higher education, for example. I mean, how do you think he is looking at this budget, and how much water do you think he thinks he needs to carry at this point for Jim Gibbons?
That's a good question. I don't think Bill Raggio ever thinks he needs to carry water for the governor, no matter what party the governor
is
representing. You know, he's been around for decades, and he is first and foremost an establishment guy. He you know, his daughter's a school teacher. He does support funding schools and higher ed, as you mentioned. His name's on a couple buildings in the state, an airport in the state. So this is a guy who's really more about the good of the state, I think, and on a base level in his heart, although sometimes it seems to conflict with how many other people see the direction of the state. I don't think he's there to support the governor in this endeavor. In fact, he's already said the budget's not workable.
Right.
The layoffs, the small layoffs that are offset by these huge 6% salary cuts really aren't workable.
Right.
So.
I mean, you've covered state politics for a long time. I mean, of the governor's budgets that have landed at the doorstep of the legislature, is this the one budget that will really have been essentially just tossed in the trash right from the get-go? I mean, give me your sense in terms of will there be any skeleton, frankly, of this budget that exits the process in June?
Well, procedurally, it's hard not to go forward with this skeleton. The budget's a massive document. In Jim Gibbons' first term, his first budget largely was Kenny Gwynn's skeleton budget moving forward. So it is hard to actually throw the whole thing out and start from scratch. But if you use the parameters he's established and make wholesale changes and really rejigger things, I think you can see at least 80% of it changed.
Yeah. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about national politics. You know, an extraordinary week for Barack Obama. I mean, talk about trying to, it's a learning curve when you walk in the White House and you're trying to pass one of the most monumental financial bills this country has ever seen. But at the end of the day, do you think, was Obama badly served by House Democrats, do you think? In terms of what they put in this bill? I guess what I'm getting at is, I mean, do you think that Republicans have been running rings around Barack Obama over this stimulus thing?
I'm not sure they've been running rings around him. You have to understand Congress is a different animal, and once they get, you know, even a president that the Democratic majority supported, and helped get many of them elected, even a president is viewed askew when you're in the halls of Congress. And so they're always going to hang their Christmas trees on it. And, you know, I think it's funny now. I was watching some of the Senate debate today. There's amendments to essentially gut the thing, take it down to half of what it is. So we'll see what survives. One thing that Barack Obama has carried over from his campaigns is this ability to reach out to the public. And ultimately, it's going to be the public speaking up that pressures Congress into passing this, if in fact it is going to pass. A number of House parties, for example, are scheduled for this weekend for people to really plan a way to push this forward.
Right. Interesting, you know, here we sit in Nevada. Harry Reid, of course, is the face of congressional Democrats. Nancy Pelosi may disagree with that, but you know where I'm headed with that anyway. But Harry Reid, and now John Ensign is taking a more prominent role for the Republicans. He's been really front and center in a lot of these media ops opportunities for the Republicans. Your thoughts on John Ensign now, on his elevated role and what that means, obviously, for him, the upside and the downside for him on this?
Well, certainly the upside is for John Ensign. It helps elevate his profile. I'm not so sure what it does for Nevada, being in the minority and having that speaking role. we know what Harry Reid can do for the state in terms of moving legislation, in terms of pork, and in terms of Yucca Mountain. So from the majority perspective, Harry Reid's role is pretty set. For John Ensign, really, I think this might actually result in ticking down his popularity a little bit from those ungodly levels he enjoys. I think
sort of a mirror of what happened to Harry Reid, now that Harry Reid was the Democratic point.
We could really see that, given the fact that Nevada's gone blue and seems to be headed in a more progressive way.
You changed jobs.
I did.
You've left the RJ. Before that, you were a reporter with The Sun. You were the progressive columnist, progressive voice in the RJ editorial page for a while. You now run your own website, ProgressNow. Right. Talk to me about why you made the change.
Well, I'll tell you, ProgressNow really gives me the opportunity to use new media and the internet to help push a progressive agenda in the state in a way that old media really doesn't allow. It's much more connected, it's much more hands-on, and you really have a greater ability to touch people and to organize. And that's why I wanted to make the change. I'll give you an example. On a good day, a column might generate 20 voicemails, 50 emails. You know, on one good day in this new gig, 500 emails. So it's a big difference.
Well, Erin Neff, you're welcome back on the program anytime. Good luck with your new venture. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jeff.
My pleasure. Thank you.